Welcome back to VQ Intel. Today we're going to be talking about function transformations, specifically how absolute value can affect how the graph looks. If you want to follow along, links to the companion worksheet are down below in the description. Also, don't forget to click that like button if you like this video, if it helps you. Don't forget to share it with your friends if they're studying the same thing as you are. And also, don't forget to click that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the videos that we have coming out from the channel. All right. So what we have is we have applying absolute value and negative absolute value inside and outside the function. Now, unlike the other videos that I'm linking up in the upper right-hand corner of the video, here we're not talking about what you add or subtract or multiply, divide to x or to y, but rather just talking about what this thing does to the graph. So here, f of absolute value of x means it reflects f of x from the right side to the left side, meaning that this part disappears and then this part flips over to here. That's what's going to happen. Now with negative absolute value of x, that means everything is negative. So that means this is now going to flip over to this side. When you take absolute value of f of x, what that means is anything that's negative is now made positive. It's going to be flipped up. And then negative f of x means everything that's positive is going to be flipped down. So let's practice this. So g of absolute value of x. So that means that we're only going to be looking at this half of the graph. So I'm going to graph that half first. So just fold this in half, make it easier. Okay. So we've got 0, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4. Now nothing is changing over here on this side. We're just copying it over. 6, 0, 8, negative 2, 10, and 11, 1. There we go. Now, what this does is now, anytime you plug in a negative for x, it's going to be turned into a positive before you apply the G rule. So that means everything negative will appear as a positive. So now, everything over here has to match over here. So this is over here. This point is over here. So I'm just reflecting every point across the y-axis. So there we go. So that is what g of absolute value of x is. Again, we only consider the positive half of the graph and then reflect it over to the negative side. Now with number 2, we do the opposite. We only consider the negative part of the graph. So I'm copying these points over. And now I'm going to reflect these points back over to the other side. So that is what this graph looks like. Now the third graph, what's going to happen is I'm going to first copy anything that is above the x-axis, because that's not going to change. So 3, 0, 0, 3, 2, 4, 4, 3, 6, 0, 10, 0, 11, 1. So what I'm going to do now is any point that was below the y-axis is going to be reflected up. So 6, negative 3 is now going to become 6, positive 3. 5, negative 2 is going to become 5, negative 2. So now this part of the graph is now above the y-axis. Same thing over here. 8, negative 2 is going to become 8, positive 2. And so this gets bent up like that. So instead of curving down below, it's now going to curve up above. And so what we just did is we just took these and we just reflected them above the x-axis. Number 4 is going to do the opposite. We're going to take everything that is below the x-axis first, because that's not going to change. Okay. And now, everything that is above the x-axis is now going to be reflected down below. So 0, 3 becomes 0, negative 3. 2, 4 becomes 2, negative 4. 4, negative 3. So this is going to bend down like that. And this point is 1, 0, like that. So there is that graph. Okay. Now, the last page, here we got absolute value of g of absolute value of x. Now, if you start from the original graph, that's going to be really tough. But we don't have to, because we've already done half the work right here. Here we've got g of absolute value of x. And so all we're going to do is say, well, what happens if we apply absolute value to this graph? Well, if you apply absolute value on the outside, that's going to take all the negative parts and make them positive. That's what it's going to do. So these two humps down here are now going to be up above the x-axis. So the graph will look like that over there, and then it's going to mirror that over on the other side. So we bring it up and over, down, up and down, and up. And there we go. So we took this graph, took what was negative, and brought it up. This one, we're going to take this graph. And what's going to happen is we're taking the absolute value and a negative, meaning that we're going to take everything and we're going to bring it down below the x-axis. So I'm going to take the parts that are already below the x-axis because they are not going to move. And so this point is down here, and so this point goes down like that. So there is what that graph looks like. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to share with all your friends if you found it helpful. Remember, the best way to understand something is to do it.